What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of For the Love of Wrestling. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade of Wrestling, JJ Williams. Happy Tuesday. Good to see everybody here today. Good to see all the regulars pouring in. Got a lot of stuff to discuss. No Collision this weekend because of the NBA All-Star Game festivities, but we still have Rampage, we still have Smackdown, and we still have Raw to get into. First and foremost, let's get the AEW out of the way. Rampage kicked off with Jeff Hardy versus Sammy Guevara. I'm not even 5 minutes in yet, so I can't curse just yet. The match was good. Don't get me wrong. But it was careless and completely unnecessary. Jeff Hardy shouldn't have taken half the risks and bumps that he did. Guevara hits the Swanton bomb off of the 20-foot ladder, putting Jeff Hardy through a table. So basically giving Hardy a dose of his own medicine, as that's usually the spot that he hits on people. We then had a botched shooting star press where Guevara's knee caught Jeff Hardy in the dome. Thankfully, there was no concussion reported. We'll have to see if any more information comes out, but considering that show was taped almost a week ago and we haven't heard of anything severe happening to Hardy, one can only assume the best. Guevara then hit the GTH to get the win. Post-match, Powerhouse Hobbs came out and attacked Sammy. Now, here's my problem with this match. And I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole of Sammy Guevara injuring Jeff Hardy, hitting him in the head with his knees. This is more directed towards Tony Khan. And my problem is that you put a guy into a no disqualification match with a history of using painkillers and drugs to help deal with the fact that he's put his body through these type of matches all these years. You figure No Mercy 1999, so almost 25 years ago, was the Terry Invitational ladder match between the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian. So for almost 25 years, Jeff Hardy's been doing this to his body. And in order to cope and deal with the pain, he's taken painkillers and illegal drugs. And so you, as a booker, think that it's a bright idea to throw that type of person into this type of match with no build, no logic as to why it's happening, no rhyme and reason. We're past the 5-minute mark now. What the fuck are you thinking? Absolutely unnecessary and stupid. And Sammy Guevara, if he doesn't slow down, is going to be the same as Jeff Hardy in about 20 years. That's assuming he makes it that long because he's still allowed to wrestle from continuing to injure people. Again, the match was good. I'm not going to take anything away from what they did. But how it was done and why it was done, considering there was none, completely unnecessary. We then went backstage, had a Prince Nana and Brian Cage promo. Cage addresses Hook ahead of their 6-man tag match next week, where it'll be Brian Cage, Swerve Strickland, and Samoa Joe versus Hook, Hangman Adam Page, and Rob Van Dam. We then had a private party promo backstage, which I thought was kind of pointless. Didn't really advance anything. You know, for there being only an hour show here, they put a lot of shit in here. I feel like they actually overloaded Rampage. We then have a BCC promo, John Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, in order to hype their match against FTR, which will be next week. We then have a Ruby Soho promo, and she kind of talks about how Cool Hand Ange has requested time with Ruby. Renee tells her this, and Saraya and Harley Cameron come in. Tension rises. Ruby basically, tells Saraya to leave her alone. Harley Cameron says that she's going to stab her, but pulls out a ladle instead of a knife. I like Saraya, but this thing with Harley Cameron needs to go. Harley Cameron is bringing Saraya down. I don't feel like Saraya and Ruby have to be attached anymore, but Harley needs to go. She's completely useless. We then had a squash match with Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs taking on Romeo Cruz, Shimbashi and Hit. Again, this was just a squash match. They were in Texas, so they had the Von Erichs on the show, teaming with Dustin Rhodes. Dusty was from Texas. It was pointless. This TV time could have gone to something else. See, Emmanuel says Hardys need to retire. I still want them to wrestle, but it's getting to the point that it's hurting them rather than helping them. Not even putting talent over when they lose. That mystique is gone. Yeah. I kind of agree with you. I think they need to have what I'm going to call a glory run. They need to get the AEW tag titles. And then that way they can truly build up some of these AEW tag teams and then lose the belts to somebody and really make them. Maybe lose them to Private Party, since Brother Zay was part of the Hardys while Mark Quinn was out on injury. At the end of it all, they could put Isaiah over. But the tag titles right now are on Darby and Steen, and don't get me wrong, they deserve them, but they're about to get passed to the Young Fucks. We then had Timeless Tony Storm cutting a promo, and Tony addresses the Virtuosa and then puts Mariah May into submissions in order to send a message, because the Virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo, is a technical magician when it comes to the women. So she tries to put Mariah May in some submissions to show Deonna that she knows a thing or two about a thing or two. We then had Queen Aminata versus Anna Jay. This was a tremendous match by both women. Aminata really brought it to Anna Jay and finally gets a victory on AEW television. Congratulations to the newest member of the All Elite Women's Division, as they had released the Queen Aminata is All Elite graphic earlier in the day. Good to see her finally get that recognition, get a victory. I've really started to get behind Aminata since she showed up, and I look forward to her matches. I was just really getting tired of seeing her lose. We then had Renee Paquette with Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and Stokely Hathaway. And Willow calls out Stokely for cheating on her behalf. You know, Willow is a good guy. Stat is a good guy. They're baby faces. Why is the manager using heel tactics to get victories for them? Stat takes a little bit of responsibility, but at the end of the day, everything is cool. Everyone is cool. We then finally get some alone time for Ruby Soho and Cool Hand Ange. Excuse me. Angelo Parker shoots his shot here to try to ask Ruby out, but Ruby stops him, asks him out for drinks the following week, says she's got a red eye she's got to catch, but how about next Wednesday they go out for drinks? And he smiles and is happy. And again, you guys know I'm a sucker for these type of things. I love the way this story's been building, and I look forward to seeing what happens with Cool Hand Ange and Ruby Soho going forward. Something to really point out was during this show, during these segments, Ruby had her natural hair color. You know, she wasn't being the punk rocker Ruby that everybody kind of knows and has gotten to know. She was being a little bit truer to normal, if you can use that type of word in the wrestling business. It's going to be interesting to see if this alteration kind of changes her dynamic and her persona some. But I'm here for it. I'm looking forward to this. Main event was the Bang Bang Scissor Gang taking on the Dark Order, Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh. This was really fun, but a little bit clusterfucky. 12 men is always chaotic, you know, especially when they're not in like a battle royal setting. You think about a War Games or a Survivor Series, and the more and more people you get into it, the more chaotic things get. We had that traditional spot in the match where everybody hits their signature move or their finisher. Finally hit the 310 to Yuma, and I forget if it's Austin or Colton Gunn that did it, but they did it with their dad. Billy Gunn was the other person executing the move. Got the victory for the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. Really fun match, really fun show all in all. But again, aside from the Sammy Guevara Jeff Hardy match, and aside from the fact that there was just too much shoved into this, great show. I give it about an 8.5 out of 10 for Rampage this week. What did you guys think? Let me know. We're going to take a quick commercial, show you where you can find and follow all the friends of the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media across the social medias, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, you name it, there's a presence out there somewhere. Get your screenshotters ready. We'll be back in just about a minute.
And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
And we are back. Next up is Friday Night Smackdown. And as Smackdown begins, we see The Rock arrive at the arena. Always good to see something like that. You know, the last few times we had The Rock show up, it was a surprise. So getting to see that footage of The Rock showing up, and you know that he's there and that presence is there, just kind of gets you hyped and ready. First match of the night was KO versus Dominic Mysterio. Solid opening contest here. Lots of false finishes. R-Truth came out, and Dom tried to use him in order to get a chair for him. But R-Truth grabbed the chair and then sat down in it instead. Got a pop-up powerbomb from KO for the victory. KO's moving on to the men's chamber match, which of course the chamber will be this weekend. We'll get to that in our shills in a little bit. But a nice, fun opening contest here with just a little bit of shenanigans because of R-Truth being out there, but not as crazy as R-Truth can be from time to time. We then had Drew McIntyre come out, cut a promo. This gets interrupted by L.A. Knight. Yeah. Two of the other men that are going to be inside of the chamber this weekend. And then we see Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman arrive. And Roman says that it is time to fix it. Fix what? We don't really know at this point. We find out later in the evening, though, so we're going to keep on moving. We then see Logan Paul arrive. And then we get a Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate promo. And they discuss their upcoming match against the Judgment Day at the Elimination Chamber and how they want to revolutionize the tag division. Dom pops in and says that they're not going to beat Priest and Balor because they can't beat any two people within the Judgment Day. So they issue a challenge to Dominic and R-Truth. But Dom points out that R-Truth isn't a member of the Judgment Day, so they challenge Dominic and JD McDonough. So this week on SmackDown, just prior to the chamber, it'll be Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne versus Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. We then had another qualifying match with Zelina Vega taking on Tiffany Stratton, the newest woman to be signed to the SmackDown roster. And honestly, this was a phenomenal match. Tiffany really proved why she deserves to be on the main roster. Legado del Fantasma were seated in the audience at ringside and were trying to mess with Zelina and the LWO. Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro were down there. The prettiest moonsault ever got the victory for Tiffany Stratton. And again, this was just a really solid match. This is proof that being in a relationship with a phenomenal wrestler can actually pay dividends for somebody. And what I mean by that is I love these people, so don't get me wrong, but the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, arguably one of the greatest technical wrestlers of my generation. Married to Brie Bella. How is Brie Bella not a better wrestler? Tiffany Stratton dates Ludwig Kaiser. They're still together. I'm not sure if they're fiancés yet, but they're at least dating. Tiffany gets better and better. She's in there with the Imperium crew. She's training. She's working on her craft. She's got people like Kaiser and Gunther helping to mold her. And you can see that with every week she gets better and better. Brie Bella should be at least at the status of performance that Tiffany Stratton is. And she just never got there, despite being married to Bryan Danielson. We then had AJ Styles and the OC backstage. Some more hostilities getting here because AJ seems to be distancing himself from the OC. Carl Anderson in particular getting frustrated while Mia Yim and Gallows try to keep the peace. And we then see the Authors of Pain get ready for action. Authors of Pain are in action in a squash match against Bo Morris and Javier Bernal from My NXT. Now, Bo Morris I did not recognize, but Javier Bernal was doing some stuff there for a while there, Big Body Javi. It was really kind of cool seeing him on the main roster, even in a squash match. You know, AOP just do not impress me. They don't. I don't know why they were brought back. But it was still cool to see Javi on the show. We then had a Logan Paul promo just ahead of another Elimination Chamber qualifying match, The Miz taking on Logan Paul. This was a good match between some longtime rivals. You figure going back a couple years to WrestleMania, The Miz and Logan Paul teamed up to take on Rey and Dominic Mysterio. Then The Miz turned on Logan Paul. They had a match at SummerSlam. And for the most part, I think they haven't really touched since then. So it was kind of cool seeing them get back into the ring, seeing them touch again. Logan Paul, of course, gets the victory here, moves on to the chamber. We then go backstage, and Nick Aldis is meeting with both Braun Breaker and Jade Cargill. And Tiffany Stratton barges in and proceeds to trash talk Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair, who are both also in the room, just kind of chilling off camera on a couch. You don't even know that they're there until the camera pans in from Tiffany doing her thing. Jade inserts herself because she's not going to allow Tiffany to come in and just interrupt this opportunity for her. And Braun walks off with Aldis while this is all going on. We then had a women's chamber qualifying match as Naomi took on Alba Fire. Now, this match was originally supposed to be Naomi versus Shotzi, but in a match that is going to air tonight on NXT between Shotzi and Lyra Valkyria, Shotzi got injured in the match. To what extent, don't know. I'm going to be curious to see the show this evening, see if we can pinpoint it. But Alba Fire was basically a replacement for Shotzi, so you already knew she wasn't going to win. But still, it was a fantastic women's match. Much like with Tiffany Stratton, Alba Fire proved that she deserves to be on the main roster, proves that her and Isla Dawn need to be highlighted and featured a little bit more. Naomi gets the victory here via submission. Solid match. We go backstage and we get Dakota Kai and Bayley. And there's still some tension between the two because Bayley doesn't really know if she can trust Dakota or if there's some ulterior motives with Dakota, because all those times Bayley saw Dakota laughing and giggling with Kairi, Io, and Asuka. So Bayley isn't really sure if she should forgive Dakota, if she should believe and trust Dakota. It's adding that little bit of extra layers to the cake here for WrestleMania between Io Sky and Bayley. Nick Aldis then comes onto the stage and announces that the newest member of the Smackdown roster is Braun Breaker. Now, I do have to touch on this a little bit because there were a lot of people in my chat groups Oh, Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker won the NXT tag titles. There goes Braun's call up. That's stupid. Why are you going to give him the tag titles? 3 days later, he's still called up to the main roster. Shut the fuck up unless you're booking for the WWE. I've been saying for a while, they want to make sure that Braun is a well-rounded performer. He's been babyface. He's been heel. He's been NXT champion, which means he's been the face of the company. And now he's running in a tag team, just like his dad and his uncle did. One of the greatest tag teams of their era, the Steiner brothers. Let the man become a well-rounded performer. And I am telling you right now, and you can take this to the bank, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin will not be champions come Stand and Deliver. I would bet just about everything I have, which isn't a whole lot, granted. I would bet just about everything I have that at Stand and Deliver it'll be Baron Corbin versus Braun Breaker. We then have the Bloodline come out for a promo, and Roman wants to be honest with the crowd, and he ends up calling the audience a whole bunch of idiots. The whole state of Utah is just idiots. He points out that tonight is history, and he doesn't want the fans to get wrapped up in his cousin, The Rock's catchphrases. Says this is the first time that they can truly announce that The Rock is a member of the Bloodline. Rock's music hits. He comes out to a huge pop to the ring. The Rock basically goes on about his promo, and he starts hyping up the fact that we could have had Roman versus Rock, but you Cody crybabies, you bitches out there in the audience prevented it. You prevented arguably the greatest money-drawing main event in history. He goes on to talk about how you're going to lose at WrestleMania. But as he points this out, he points towards Roman. There's a few little subtleties that people have caught on here. When he talked about you're going to lose at WrestleMania, he points to Roman. When they all put their finger up at the air at the end, Rock's is more like an L or like a gun. So there's already the speculation going around that since we didn't get Rock Roman this year, they're going to slowly plant the seeds so that we can get Rock Roman next year and give this like a Cena Rock build over a year. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, but we'll just have to see what happens. All in all, I thought SmackDown was a good show. I'd give it a solid 8. What did you guys think of SmackDown? Let me know. We're going to go ahead and run the opening for the Raw portion of For the Love of Wrestling. And we'll come back and we'll get into last night's episode of Raw. Stay tuned.
want to talk about.
And we are back. Raw was, if I'm gonna be honest, the matches were good, but Raw was a little bit of a chore last night. And I only say that because there were so many promos. Granted, it's the go home to the pay-per-view, so I get it. But at the same time, there could have been a lot more. Show kicked off with Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes. And this was a tremendous match. Almost 30 minutes, 2 commercial breaks. Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa come out, cost Cody Rhodes the match. Drew gets the victory. This is only the second pin Cody has taken since returning to WWE WrestleMania 2 years ago. The defeat from Roman last year, and this one to Drew. Cody's still very much protected, but definitely adding that fuel to the Roman Cody fire. Like, okay, you chose Roman instead of choosing Seth. We're going to make you regret your decision. Some solid storytelling here. As tired as I am of seeing the bloodline attack and interfere, this portion of the story, it's warranted, if that makes any sense. We then had a vignette for Andrade El Idolo, or Andrade Cien Almas, talking about his destiny, talking about how he's a third-generation talent. His grandfather, his father, his uncles, his wife, all parts of the business. And it's his destiny to be in the WWE. Really good, well done vignette here for Andrade. We then had Cody with Pierce in the trainer's room. And Cody says that he's fine. He's fine. Seth comes in, kind of just pats Cody on the leg, says nothing, and leaves. Of course, you don't want Seth to say too much. Seth and Cody are going to be on the Grayson Waller effect, on Elimination Chamber in Australia. The Aussie icon getting to do his talk show segment in his home country. Definitely makes sense there. Got to get him on the card somewhere. We then had the last chance battle royal for the women in order to take the final spot here in the Elimination Chamber match. And I may have missed a couple of women, but Katana Chance, B-Fab, Maxine Dupree, Elektra Valhalla, Mia Yim, Xia Li, Ivy Nile, Tegan Knox, Natalia, Chelsea Green, Indy Hartwell, Candice LeRae, Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, Zelina Vega, Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, Raquel Rodriguez making her return. That's 19. I feel like there was one other in there somewhere that I didn't catch. Make it an even 20. Regardless, I digress. This was a very impressive battle royal. Raquel Rodriguez asserted her dominance, as did Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. Raquel got the one here in her first match back. Very, very well done. I wasn't surprised to see her win when she got involved, but at the same time, it's like, you're not going to win anyways when we get into the match, so it is what it is. We then had a main event, Jey Uso promo backstage, getting everybody hyped for his main event later on tonight as he challenges Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. We then had Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax cut promos and do an interview. They were separated backstage in different portions of the arena. And Rhea talked about and kind of gave her story. I've heard the story a few times in interviews and articles about how she came to the WWE and kind of felt like she needed to be like everybody else, for lack of a better term. Like she wasn't really being herself. She was being what she thought the WWE wanted from her, until finally she got tired of it and started to do the more gothic mommy that we all know and love today. Nia basically mocks her and gets Rhea upset. At the end of the day, this is a heel versus heel match, but Rhea has been so over for a long time, and especially going into her home country of Australia, they definitely played up how Rhea is the babyface in this match. It was very well done. I don't know how much longer Rhea is going to be a part of the Judgment Day. I definitely see it crumbling, if not before, then right after WrestleMania, because Rhea's too over as a face. They need to strap that rocket to her and just catapult her big time. We then got a bit more of a personal interview with R-Truth. They're walking around outside of the Honda Center and just kind of talking to him and getting his thoughts on certain things, and very, very R-Truth-esque, very comical. It was definitely entertaining. I don't know how necessary it was, but it was definitely entertaining. We then come back inside, and the UFC light heavyweight champion Michael Chandler is there at ringside, and they're interviewing him, and he calls out Conor McGregor. So it looks like they're trying to set that up for an upcoming UFC fight. I know 299 is pretty well booked. I think 300 is booked, so maybe for UFC 301. We then had a Chad Gable promo backstage, and then Ivar responding. So we basically got 5 promos in a row here. This is what I'm talking about as far as too many promos in the show and not enough other stuff. We then had an 8-man tag match, the Awesome Truth and DIY versus all 4 members of the Judgment Day. Really fun match here, and again, much like the 12-man over on AEW, there was that signature spot where everyone hits their signature or finishing maneuver. South of Heaven from Priest gets the pin onto R-Truth, keeping the Judgment Day strong going into their tag title defense at the Chamber, but not damaging Truth too much, I don't feel. We then had an interesting interview from Sami Zayn backstage, and he talks about how he needs to stop putting all his energy and all his focus on Drew McIntyre, because he has a history of being obsessed and getting obsessive. And he needs to be able to see the opportunity for WrestleMania when it presents himself. And he made a couple comments here that really made me scratch my head. And here, 9:43 a.m. Pacific time, February 20th, you're going to hear it out of my mouth first. I think Sami Zayn is going to dethrone Gunther at WrestleMania. During his promo, Sami Zayn talked about making history, and he will be a champion again. Now, the World Championship looks like it's pretty much locked in with Drew McIntyre. He's more than likely going to win the Chamber. He's not going after the WWE Championship. That's Cody and Roman. The U.S. title with Logan Paul is on Smackdown. There's no reason for him to hop shows. He's a Raw guy. Gunther's reign is currently at 600 and something days. How do you make history? You dethrone the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history at the biggest show of the year. So you heard it here first. I'm calling Sami Zayn versus Gunther for WrestleMania with Sami taking the title. Just based off of that promo last night. How we get to that point, don't know. Not sure. But we're going to get there. We then had Becky Lynch come out for a promo. And man, if I did not call this the second Becky came to the ring. Becky comes out and I look to the kids in the house and I'm like, watch. This is going to be that go home promo where every female in the chamber comes out. And sure enough, Becky goes probably about 3 or 4 minutes just on her own, uninterrupted. And then boom, here comes Liv Morgan. Who's talking about, oh yeah, that's great. You've got this story with Rhea Ripley that's been bubbling under. But let's not forget that I was the last one to pin Rhea Ripley. I was tag champions with Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley injured me and put me out of action for 6 months. So I'm out for revenge against Rhea Ripley. Then here comes Raquel Rodriguez, who she was tag team champion partners with after Rhea Ripley. Then here came the other girls, here comes Naomi, here comes Tiffany, here comes Becky, Liv, Raquel, Tiffany, Naomi. Who am I missing? Irrelevant. Bianca, thank you, Emmanuel. Bianca came out at the very end. And all of them basically go back and forth. And then Liv, out of nowhere, just cracks Tiffany in the face. And it was like, oh, this is okay. Then here comes Nia Jax, just annihilated all 6 women because everybody is assuming that it's going to be Rhea Ripley that walks out of Australia. Everyone is completely overlooking the irresistible force, Nia Jax. And while granted, I don't expect Nia Jax to win, the fact that people are overlooking a woman of that size, that is that dominant, that's been destroying everybody since her return, that's not a good look. So she made people remember why she is who she is. Arguably, this was probably the best segment of the night that wasn't a match. We then had Chad Gable versus Ivar, and this was a phenomenal fucking match as well. Both men really showed up and showed out here. Gable got the W after a moonsault into the ankle lock. Just when the matches were going, the matches were great last night. The problem was they had 1, 2, 3, 5 matches in 3 hours. That was the problem. We then had a New Day promo, and they basically challenge Imperium to a street fight for next week. It should be a good one there. Finally, put an end to their feud. Main event, Jey Uso versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Champion. This match was amazing as well. Jey Uso looked like he was going to have it. And then here comes Jimmy Uso back, rings the timekeeper's bell, allows Gunther to retain. Such a sad day. And the worst part is that if you believe the reports, that are going out there from the internet journalists, as of 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern yesterday, so after the show had already started, Jey Uso was supposed to win the Intercontinental title. Things were changed at the last minute. And that really sucks for Jey. But I know that there's a reason for it, you know. I think what would be better is if we get Jey versus Jimmy at Mania, have Sammy dethrone Gunther, and then you can have Jey versus Sammy for the Intercontinental title. That I think would be better. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Emmanuel gave Raw a C. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, only because there were way too many promos and whatnot. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm going to run the latest watch-along trailer, show you guys all the upcoming watch-alongs that'll be going across the multiverse of media, and then we will get into our shows and sign out for the evening. The morning, excuse me. The phone went off and disturbed me. We'll be right back in about a minute.
And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
And we are back. So much wrestling, so much content, so many watch-alongs coming up across the multiverse of media you guys are going to want to stay tuned to, including a double feature this week. Holy hell, there's going to be a lot going on. Let's get down to business. This afternoon, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you tune in to Statboy Sports Bar, as Statboy brings you all the latest in the world of professional sports conversation. And then at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, it will be Simply Predicting, as we discuss the Elimination Chamber. I know Emmanuel, who's been in the chat room, is supposed to be there for that. I will be there. The Simple Man Noah Foster moderates. Statboy and I believe Dory Lou are supposed to be there. Not sure who else will be there, but it should be a fun conversation as we discuss the Elimination Chamber show. We then will have Let me see here. This Thursday, Talk Wrestling will be on. Did a date change because there wasn't a whole lot to discuss yesterday. So yesterday was Meech's Musings. Thursday will be Talk Wrestling. Friday, prior to No Surrender, we will be simply predicting TNA's No Surrender. That'll be at 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern. Really need to talk to the graphic maker about switching the times around. So 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern, simply predicting for No Surrender. And then that leads into the watch alongs for this weekend, as we do have a double feature. Beginning at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern on Friday, No Surrender coverage. It'll be Noah and Dattila on commentary for that. I will be stepping in and handling commentary until Dattila can join. I believe she said that with her job, she can't get there. She doesn't usually get home until about 5:30 Pacific time. So I should be on commentary for the first hour and a half of the show. And then Saturday morning, no, we will not be doing this during the live broadcast times of 2 o'clock a.m. Pacific, 5 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. We will instead be doing the Elimination Chamber at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Yes, that means we will be doing the watch along after it's already aired. But considering our living situations, we want to try to make sure that we are completely fair to the people we live with. So we don't want to disturb or awaken anybody at ungodly hours of the morning. That just about covers the plugs. I do want to throw out there very quickly. Apparently, there is a campaign going on to get me to TNA Rebellion. The tickets have already been procured. TNA Rebellion is coming back to Las Vegas on April 20th. The tickets have already been procured, but transportation and accommodations are what they are. So we are attempting to raise $500 to get me to Rebellion. Any donations can be sent to that address right there, paypal.me/renegadejjwilliams. Any donations are appreciated. Nobody expects any one person to drop the entirety of the $500, but I have never seen a TNA show live. I've never been to a TV taping, a pay-per-view, and this is my opportunity to finally go. I've been to WWF, I've been to WCW, I've been to ECW, I've been to WWE, I've been to AEW, but I've never been to TNA. And we would like to try to rectify that. So if you have a few extra dollars that you're willing to spare, if you enjoy the content that we put on here on the Casa D18 Studios and across the multiverse of media, if you enjoy the watch along coverage and the commentary, if you'd like to see more things like interviews and special guests, the only way we can make that happen is if we get to these things. And the only way I can get to this is if you guys help to make it possible. So once again, there's the link. Send a donation, however much you can spare. Greatly appreciate it. That's going to just about wrap things up today on For the Love of Wrestling. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. as I will discuss all the stuff that comes out today. Explosion, which is currently available on YouTube. NWA Power, which is currently on the CW app. And then, of course, NXT, which will be live this evening. All that will be covered tomorrow. And until then, I will catch you guys later.
The Jeff Meacham Network's Multiverse of Media. For over 15 years, the recognized symbol of excellence and the standard bearer in coverage of sports and entertainment.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate you.